In a groundbreaking move, US banks are pressing for SEC acceptance of Bitcoin as a government-level payment solution. The call for recognition is gaining momentum, potentially reshaping the financial landscape. Join us as we explore the potential implications of this bold initiative. Is Bitcoin on the verge of official government endorsement? Stay tuned to find out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and let's start. And we're starting off with Bitcoin broke the key $50,000 resistance level, hold above here over the weekend, and it won't be long before we see a 60,000 broken as well. Also, Bitcoin lowest price forward as we're looking into a continuous explosions on the market as we are below the average price position that we should be in. That means that the increase would be massive and we will be breaking the level of the 60,000 that was kind of all-time high for us before, and now we are going to be now it's going to be low for us as we're never going to go below that price position as we're going to break above the $100,000 and more will continue on growing. Rumor: first Bitcoin spot ETF will be approved in Hong Kong in next few months. Massive if it actually is true. Holy shit, bankers are getting pissed they can't hold spot Bitcoin ETFs for their customers, as the Q1 FOMO is already driving them mad. Powerful interest groups are pushing the Securities and Exchange Commission to tweak accounting guidance that makes it more expensive for US banks to hold digital assets for their customers. The regulator is already facing pressure from both Democrats and Republicans in Congress to repeal the guidance. The trade group coalition, which includes the Bank Policy Institute and the American Bankers Association, the Securities Industry and Financial Market Association, and the Financial Service Forum, issued a letter to the SEC on Wednesday seeking certain changes. Also, just in, the Bitwise Spot Bitcoin ETF had their second largest day since launch. They had 126.5 million of inflows just today. Simple plan for Bitcoin: buy in 2013, hold in 2024, take profits in 2025, and go away in 2026. Breaking: the net spot Bitcoin ETF flow surpassed 100,000 Bitcoins yesterday, and it continues to grow even more. As Bitcoin is exhibiting a bearish divergence, while BlackRock buys $300 million worth of it every day, should we take this signal actually serious? Next stop, Bitcoin explains simply: you work hard to make money, you trade a huge percentage of your one and only life for a paycheck, meanwhile the government can double the money supply with a mouse click. Here's the harsh reality: if you hold cash in a bank, you're halving your time stolen as the government destroys your purchasing power. So your only choice is to invest in assets to avoid getting debased by the government, and if you invest well, you can outpace inflation and live a better life. But what's the best way to invest the money for a better future? People use homes, stocks, bonds, and even art to save money, but they all have downsides. None of them were meant to be a vehicle for saving, so they are all imperfect in their own way. A house is stuck in one place, has maintenance and issuance costs and usually requires taking out debt to own. There's an unlimited supply of government debt bonds, and they lose purchasing power over time as government spending spirals out of control. Businesses have limited lifespans and tons of operational risk, as they can also create equity from thin air. Art isn't fungible. To sell it to you need to find a buyer who wants your particular artwork and is willing to pay your price. Bitcoin is a new form of savings technology that solves the problem of how to store your wealth. It was engineered to be an ideal form of property to hold long term and increase your purchasing power over time. It's finite, it's backed by energy, it doesn't decay like a building, it can be bought and sold in tiny amounts, you can hold it for decades without any fees, and it can be taken with you anywhere in the world. It isn't tied to the fate of any one country or industry, and it hasn't been the best performing asset over the past decade plus. Quite simply, people who have chosen Bitcoin as their primary savings vehicle have experienced the large gains in purchasing power consistently over time. And now it's at very beginning stage of adoption by the largest asset managers in the world, which means the risk reward has never been better. The risk has been significantly reduced now that it has SEC approval and is being pushed into retirement portfolios of BlackRock and Fidelity clients. And the reward of buying at the beginning of the new wave of capital that is just starting to arrive is obvious. In short, it's still early, and because Bitcoin is the best savings technology known to man, it will always be a great place to store profits from hard work. Bottom line, life gets continually cheaper for Bitcoin holders and more expensive for people who choose to store value in other assets. So choose your story, your value wisely. Major asset performance since governments started widely debasing currencies in 2020. Next up, what do we have here as Federal Reserve ex-chairman Alan Greenspan says the value of Bitcoin can never be negative, and it's so accident cryptocurrencies that have some semblance of control and mathematics correct are doing pretty well. Anyone who's waiting for 20,000 Bitcoin will end up buying Bitcoin above 100k. Bears are in disbelief. They were calling for not only 10k but also 3k. Many of the major bears were literally staking their lives bet on the failure of this asset. It's unbelievable that they called for 3,000 insanity. Bitcoin will continue to dematerialize every asset in the world as Bitcoin changes everything because it protects the most precious scarce thing in the world, your time. The less safe haven opt out by Bitcoin, put it in a cold storage. There will be soon come a time when people will no longer be willing to exchange their Bitcoins for dollars, gradually then suddenly. Also, when MicroStrategy's market cap reaches 14.5 billion, it will be included in the S&P 500, as this will create a positive price feedback loop, as it's incredibly bullish for both Bitcoin and for MicroStrategy. Must watch. When Bitcoin is generally bullish, she won't pick everyone up at the support with a perfect dip. A trendline Bitcoin rides without passengers. If she left you behind, note this down. It's been one of the most important lessons from the past cycle. US banks urge SEC for crypto accounting rule changes. As US banks are advocating for changes in accounting standards to simplify holding digital assets, proposed changes aim to make it cheaper and more manageable for banks to include Bitcoin in their services, as the initiative signals growing institutional interest in integrating cryptocurrencies. In a significant development reported by Bloomberg, banks across the United States are making a concerted push towards the Securities and Exchange Commission to amend existing accounting rules. The proposed changes are aimed at easing the process and reducing the costs associated with the banks holding digital assets such as Bitcoin on behalf of their customers, as this move underscores the growing demand and interest in cryptocurrencies within the traditional banking sector and highlights the evolving landscape of financial services in the age of digital assets. The bank's initiative to lobby the SEC for these changes marks a pivotal moment in the integration of cryptocurrencies into mainstream financial services. Current accounting standards pose various challenges and costs for banks wishing to hold digital assets, as which can deter them from offering these services to their customers. And by advocating for rule modifications, these financial institutions are seeking to remove barriers to entry, thereby enabling a broader adoption of cryptocurrencies within their operational models, and the implications of such changes could be far-reaching, potentially paving the way for a more widespread acceptance and holding of digital currencies by major banks, as this would not only provide customers with more options for managing their digital assets, but also solidify the legitimacy and the utility of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin in the broader financial ecosystem. As moreover, the initiative reflects the growing acknowledgement among traditional financial institutions of the importance and inevitability of incorporating digital assets into their service offerings. And in conclusion, the push by US banks for the SEC to revise accounting rules related to digital assets holding represents a critical step towards the integration of cryptocurrencies into conventional banking systems, as should these efforts prove successful, they could significantly lower the barriers for banks to hold and manage digital assets, as further catalyzing the adoption and acceptance of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin within the financial services industry. That's all the information we have to know about the Bitcoin, so see you in the next one and peace.